Hi, welcome back to West Coast Geeks. I'm your host, Joaquin. How we doing, people? Today's video is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Monster Manual, Part 6, the letter E. And you know who's with me.
The other guy that begins with letter E, it's Eric.
That's right. And for those of you this is your first time, welcome to the show. As you can see, Part 6 means we have 5 other videos of the Monster Manual. This is an in-depth reading and review of the Monster Manual, people. So we're not just flipping through the books and being like, here you go, that's the Monster Manual. No, sirree. Eric's going to read the descriptions. We're going to talk about it. So you have a little better sense of the book that started Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. This was it, people. It's the jumping off point. All right, so now everybody's caught up. As you see, elementals. This is our little picture here.
Who's that
Okay.
guy in the picture?
Oh, what the heck? I clicked on it. Hold on. Technical difficulties. All right, there we go. Eagles, ear seekers, and eel. Did you say ear seeker?
What?
Giant eagles, friends to druids and rangers. Ear seekers are definitely I put defiantly. Are definitely will see play in my campaign. Will defiantly see play in my campaign. Yeah, I'm spell check. Man, like every video, I swear. Will they appear in yours? So after Eric reads the description, you might want to add these in the 5th edition. And last is the giant eel, or great creatures to add to the Dragons of Stormwreck Isle. All right, Eric, take us away. Letter E, giant eagle.
All right, first century, we have the giant eagle. Giant eagles are found only in places where there are great bluffs, cliffs, mesas, or mountain crags to nest on. Their eyesight is such that they are never surprised unless encountered in their lair or at night. If they attack by diving 50 feet or more, they add +4 to the to hit probability, do double claw damage, which is already 2d6 each, but they get no beak attack. They can carry up to 2,000 gold piece weight at half speed. If encountered outside their lair, giant eagles will typically ignore any good creatures but will attack evil creatures which seem to be threatening. They are fairly friendly towards certain dwarves and elves. They have their own language and can also communicate through a limited form of telepathy. Interesting. They gave him telepathy.
I
I
forgot
didn't
about
know.
that.
Yeah, me too.
I was like, oh, that's
If we,
cool.
right? They're like, oh, we don't need to talk to you fools. If encountered in their lair, they will always be hostile. Wow. Angry. They're not good housekeep people. If they are young, which is a 50% chance, or eggs, they will attack any creature within 50 feet. There will be 1 to 4 young per nest, 1 nest per giant eagle, or 2 giant eagles. I'm sorry. They can be tamed. Eagles, eggs, giant egg eagles sell on the open market for 500 to 800 gold pieces each.
That's probably why they're so aggressive. Because they know,
Right?
like, no, don't leave my
Right?
eggs
They're like,
alone.
hey,
Leave my baby.
it's a big ass omelet. Yeah, so there's giant eagles, not to be confused with the rock, which we'll see later.
Yeah, much later. But we will see him.
Should have took the halflings all the way to Mordor. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, you have Joaquin's new favorite, the Ear Seeker. Let's see about these. I forgot all about these guys.
So did I until I read it.
This bullshit. Ear seekers are small insectoids which are found in wood. They live by eating dead cellulose, but they need warm places in which to lay their eggs. Ew! I'm just picturing this in the ear, dude. And they favor places like ears. Ew! If this creature enters a warm place, it will always lay 9 to 16 tiny eggs and then crawl out to die. Okay, I gotta go and clean out my ears with some swabs or something. I'm just picturing these eggs and ears, man. When the eggs hatch 4 to 24 hours later, the larvae eat the surrounding flesh, generally burrowing inwards to where most of the food and body heat is, killing their host 90% of the time. A cure disease spell will destroy the eggs. Fuck that. So will a Q-tip. Oh my, ew. Dude, you don't understand. Okay, Monster Manual aside, I have this fear of bugs and stuff in my ear.
Really?
Yeah, yes, because I've oh no, I've had like bugs and stuff crawl into my ear. It freaks me out. To this day, I still like vigorously clean out my ear with Q-tips and Kleenex and stuff. My ears are spotless, dude. Oh, this is my phobia right here. This is my trigger, as the
Oh.
kids now would say. It's my trigger.
I'm gonna be like one night, I'm gonna be like, Eric, roll a perception check. Why? Don't worry about it.
Man. No. Oof. Okay, I'm moving on.
Nope.
We have the ear seekers. Eel. We have three different kinds of eels. We have the electric eel, the giant eel, and the weed eel. No comment.
The weed eel.
Oh, yeah. What is
What the
that?
hell?
All eels are water dwellers. They are typically aggressive only when approached too closely. Electric eels are found in warm freshwater. Really?
Mm-hmm.
It will give off a jolt of electricity in a radius of 15 feet. They are immune to electrical effects. Any creature within 5 feet of the eel takes 3 to 24 hit points of damage.
Goodbye, first level character.
Man, right? That's some second level characters too.
Mm-hmm.
Within 5 to 10 feet, the jolt delivers 2 to 16 hit points of damage. And between 10 and 15, the jolt delivers a d8 hit points worth of damage.
That still could be lethal.
Yeah, you get a mage. He's like, oh, shocked the monkey. The eel can do this but once per hour. Okay, that's not so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Marine species are reportedly to be twice the size and do twice the damage. Yeesh.
Notice how they don't even say take a save for half. Now you're supposed to.
No, that's just electric shock.
You're supposed to.
Yeah, I don't know though. It's
It's one of those things as a DM
what would,
like
what would the
Joaquin
save,
would
what would
just
the
be
save
like,
be against though?
I'd be
It's
like
not
to
a
the rules
spell.
lawyer, doesn't say
No,
that you
but excuse
do.
me. What would they save against though? It's not a breath weapon. It's not a spell. It's not poison. It's not, a magical effect. It's a physical thing.
That is weird. I would have to. When we get to the player's handbook, I have to try to look at their saves again.
Take that note.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy. Giant eels are typically of the moray type. They have a nasty temper and teeth to match. A few of them, around 10%, are found in freshwater. Weed eels. Let's see what this says. Weed eels are masters of camouflage, appearing as a patch of normal seaweed to any but a highly trained observer. Highly trained in what exactly? Weed eel spotting? What is that? They live in colonies, sharing food and home alike. Their bite is poisonous, and unless a saving throw is made, the creature bitten will die. Man, that's pretty
what
harsh.
What the hell, dude?
Right? Weed eel colonies consist of a network of small holes, all which lead to several 6-foot diameter tunnels. Jesus. And the latter leads to a communal cave about 30 feet long, 20 feet wide, and 20 feet high. Wow. These eels use small stones, coins, gems, metal, etc. to floor this cave with. Oh, wow. Colonies are found in both fresh and salt water, typically in water depths of 25 to 40 feet. Wow. If an attempt is made to enter any hole, the eel to whom it belongs will always strike with incredible speed. If eels note the entrance of foreign caves, they will leave their holes to protect the cave where the young are raised. Man, that's a whole lot.
That is. I did not realize
Dude,
that
and
eels are so damn deadly.
Yeah. Saving throw or you die.
Yeah.
Does it even say within 3 rounds?
No,
Nope, you're dead. Save or die.
Save or die.
That's hardcore, dude. And
Dude,
look,
I don't think I've ever played with one as a DM. And, I've always made that claim that most of the monsters in the Dungeon Master's Guide I've used. I don't think I've used. I think at best I've just used the giant eel. It may be electrical. I'm surprised my little diabolical ass at the age of 11 didn't go weed.
I ain't going no water. I ain't going there no water.
I mean, 'cause that's brutal, people.
And the number appearing 10 to 60 appearing.
Yeah, and
So
it's
if
not
you
like
get
you get
attacked by like
immune.
10 of them, at minimum, that's 10 saves or die.
Yeah,
Man, that's hardcore.
that is, dude. That's brutal. Maybe I'll bring back the weed eel too.
Maybe I ain't going to no water with your ass. All right. Who's up next? There we go.
Ifrits and the Elementals. The first monsters to introduce the different planes to D&D. Players and DMs learn that there's more to D&D than just their home planet. Ifrit would make the cover of the first Dungeon Master's Guide. I always thought
Yep.
that was a demon, but then it turned out that the cover
Yeah.
is like the City of Brass, and that's the big ass
Yep.
Ifrit. A year later, the players would be able to summon and command elementals, because that's when the player's handbook came out.
Yep.
Take us away, Ifrit.
All right. And just like a side note, I really wish, and I guess because it was so early, they didn't come out with the others. And they've kind of done it now. The Ifrit, the Dow, was the other one, the Marin.
Okay, the Dow, I want to say came out maybe in the Fiendifolio, and I want to say the
Yeah.
the Madrid came out in S4, the Caverns. That's when it came out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so then I think I think that also made the Fiendifolio, so it might have came out in the
Yeah,
Fiendifolio.
yeah. They came out a little later. I guess the Ifrit was the first one, and I forget what the fourth one is. I always forget that one. Yeah, so we got the Ifrit gets its own separate entry here.
Yeah.
They are creatures from the elemental plane of fire. Just as Jinn come from the plane of air, they are enemies of the Jinn and will always attack when they encounter them. An Ifriti can be forced to serve for a maximum of 1,001 days, or by causing it to fulfill 3 wishes. Interesting. I didn't know Ifritis could
Grant wishes? Yeah, I think
grant
so.
wishes.
I'm
No,
not sure if that
I
still
didn't know.
happens in 5th edition, but
Yeah, I didn't know that. They are not willing servants, and they will seek to pervert the intent of their masters by adhering to the letter of the commands. This is why you never make a wish, folks. Never make a wish.
Mhm.
An Afridi is able to do the following once per day: grant up to 3 wishes and then go free. Become invisible, assume gaseous form, detect magic, enlarge as a 10th level magic user, polymorph self, create an illusion with both visual and audio components, which will last without concentration until magically dispelled or touched, or create a wall of fire. An Afridi can also produce flame or cause pyrotechnics as often as desired. Attacks based on fire do no harm to Ifrit if the fire is of the normal sort, with normal in quotation marks.
yeah.
Magical fire attacks are both -1 to hit and damage on the die roll. Ifrit can carry up to 7,500 gold piece weight, afoot or flying, without tiring. It can carry double the amount for only a limited time, 3 turns afoot, but only 1 turn aloft. For each 1,500 gold piece weight, why do they put? I wonder why they put so much information on how much they can carry. Are these guys lugging around giant sacks of stuff? Like, that's a very specific number to give, walking or flying or how much they can carry around. It's just odd. I find they do that a lot in here. So yeah, to get back to that, for each 1,500 gold piece weight under 15,000, add 1 turn to either walking or flying turn permitted. After carrying excess weight, the Afridi must rest full 6 turns. The fabled city of Brass, citadel of the Ifrit, is on the plain from whence they came. Capture an Afridi is possible. Capture of an Afridi is possible there, but tens or even hundreds of Ifrit would possibly have to be faced to do so. Ifrit are infamous for their dislike of servitude, their desire for revenge, their cruel nature, and their ability to mislead. A powerful sultan rules the Ifrit. He is served by many different sorts of nobles and officials, pashas, days, amirs, valis, and maliks. Interesting how they hate servitude so much, but it seems like, I guess because they grant wishes, people often seek them out to enslave them. I guess, yeah, that would make them bitter.
Yeah, you
The
think.
Ifrit are, what was that?
I said you think.
Right? They're like, man, The Ifrit are able to communicate with any intelligent creature they encounter by means of a limited form of telepathy, which enables them to understand and speak appropriately. Ifrit are able to travel the material, elemental, and astral planes. All right. Moving
Okay.
on to the oh, go ahead.
Oh, before you do the elemental, 'cause I didn't want to interrupt while you're reading all that. No, the
Anyways.
reason why they did they do the weight carry on certain creatures
Mm-hmm.
is because you can charm monster,
Yeah.
you can entrap them somehow, or force them into servitude, like in the Ifrit. So it lets the DM know how much stuff they can carry around. Like I one time did discover an Ifrit bottle, and the DM let me know, like he role played that the Ifrit's like, I will grant you 3 wishes. And I said to him, I go, yeah, but I mean, is that all? And then once I said, is that all? He kind of like reluctantly said, or I can serve you. But he didn't tell me the number of days. And
Yeah.
so I was like, well, I'm going to think about my wishes. What can you do? And so he kind of explained some of his abilities. I'd use them to
Uh,
attack, carry stuff. Um,
like, but that's the thing. Who gets in a free and be like, oh, I got this badass monster. I'm gonna have him carry my shit. I mean, come on, man. You could be
I
doing
did.
wishes and
We
no,
found
bitch,
like these,
carry
like
my
all these
horse.
treasures, like all these big treasures, and we just piled it all up, and we're just like, here, pick that up and
Oh my
follow us
goodness.
around. I had my little bottle, and he came out of it, and you would just pick up all
Uh-huh.
the treasure and stuff, and then we get into combat. I'd wake his ass up, and I'd be like, you need to protect your master, and I'd stand behind him, and I would tell him, I was like, you need to cast all your fire in front of yourself. Do not cast anything on me in my direction in the back, because I was kind of
I don't
hesitant.
catch me in that
Yeah, I don't want to be caught in the
fireball.
fire. And so he would do that, but then sometimes he wouldn't cover the whole area and leave an area, and they'd run around and run past him. And
Mm-hmm.
I would be like, to the GM, like, what the hell, dude? He's supposed to block them. He's like, you didn't tell him to block them. I was like, oh, you sneaky bastard.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, all right. So, like, I think I had him serve in game time probably like 10 sessions, which is the equivalence
Oh
of like
man,
like like 4 or 5 months. And
that's
then
a long
it
time.
was, and like even my DM was kind of getting sick of it. He's like, you know, you can make
Make your damn wishes and get out.
yeah, because you run the risk. Like he had an NPC tell me about this or some kind of like stage. He's like, you run the risk of this Efreet once it becomes free to hunt you down.
Right?
And I was like, well, I guess I could use one of my wishes to say that he can never attack me or plot against me. And my DM just looked at me
Never
like,
let harm come to me.
yeah, I can use that
Yeah.
for one of my wishes. But in the end, I used my wishes, and he did pervert at least one of them. And then,
Yeah.
and then after that, we got the other 2 wishes, but they weren't quite what I wanted. But they weren't. It didn't have like a really bad effect. Like I told him that
Yeah.
I wanted to have a magic sword, so he did give me a magic sword, but it was cursed.
Oh man.
Yeah, so you can be
No,
very
you
clever
gotta
with
write them
wishes.
wishes out like they're a legal document, man.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, here we go.
All right,
Elementals.
here we elementals. Here's a long little backstory. I'll try and get through this as quick as I can.
Get your soda
There
ready,
are four
people.
different there are 4 different kinds of elementals normally encountered: air, earth, fire, and water elementals. These are strong but relatively stupid beings conjured magically from their noble habitat. The elemental planes of air, earth, etc. Okay, so they are. The strength of any type varies, and the characteristics of each elemental type are different. All differences will be dealt with separately under their appropriate headings. More or less powerful and/or intelligent elementals exist on the elemental planes that can be summoned. Various forms of free-willed elemental plane dwellers will be found described elsewhere in this book, like the Afridi. The outstanding true elementals dwelling on these planes will be mentioned only briefly hereunder. They give the hit dice for different different methods of conjuration: conjuration by spell or 16 hit die, conjuration by summoning device or 12 hit die, and conjurations through a staff or 8 hit die. Any creature conjuring an elemental may do so but once per day per means per elemental type. For example, a magic user with 2 appropriate staffs could summon at least 2 elementals, 1 through each staff, once per day each. Both elementals could not be of the same kind. If the magic user were able to employ several spells to conjure elementals, each spell would have to summon a different kind of elemental. However, if the magic user also has a summoning device and a staff, he could possibly evoke 3 elementals of the same type. As elementals are stupid and resent being summoned, the conjuring party must concentrate upon controlling the creature. Well, that's, man, I would want to conjure me 3 earth elementals and then the rest of the party plays shepherd dog. Oh. Failure to do so will result in the elemental turning upon the summoner 75% of the time and attacking. The turning elemental will become directly towards the conjuring party, attacking anything in its path along it the way. Oosh. Control can never be regained, and an uncontrolled elemental will always return to its own plane in 3 turns after control is lost. Wow, man.
And what is it?
So
Like
you
75%?
lose control, it's your ass, man. Let's see. And it doesn't say, well, maybe it'll say later. If an elemental does not turn 25% of the chance, it simply goes immediately to its own plane. Control concentration requires that the summoning party remain stationary and be neither physically nor mentally attacked, including attacked by missiles or distraction. In any event, only 1 elemental at a time could be controlled. So if you summon 3 elementals, like I said, that magic user could, you can only control 1. And you have to remain stationary. You cannot be attacked. You can't have anything thrown at you or be distracted. That's a lot, man.
It is, but look how
I don't
powerful they
understand
are,
how.
though, when we get there.
Yeah, but I mean, why would they give you the ability to summon 3 and only control 1? The other 2 are going to come and attack you, and then you're going to lose control of that 3rd one. That's crazy. There's got to be more to it.
Yes.
Elementals are impervious to attacks by normal weapons and even magical weapons under a +2 bonus. Creatures without magical ability of some sort cannot harm elementals unless the creatures have 4 or more hit dice. Magical ability includes paralysis, poison, acid, breath weapons, and even the characteristic of not being subject to an attack by normal weapons. Wow. Kobolds, goblins, orcs, etc. are all powerless to affect elementals because they have neither magical property nor 4 or more hit die. Ogres, however, could attack an elemental with the effect as they have the necessary strength or hit dice in this case. Note, however, that if a kobold with a +2 magic sword attacked an elemental, the weapon would be effective. A conjured elemental can be taken over and controlled by a magic user casting a dispel magic spell. Interesting. Ratio dispellers level over conjuring parties level to determine the chance of success. A lot of math going on in these early monster manuals. A lot of it. Deliberately aiming it at dispelling the control rather than the elemental. Interesting. So whatever magic is controlling the elemental, that would be the target of the dispel magic spell instead of the elemental itself. However, if the spell fails, the effect is to strengthen the elemental to a full 8 points per hit die. Ooh. This is back in the day when you did get full hit dice.
Yep.
Double the controller's ability to concentrate and make the elemental resent the one attempting the takeover. Oh, so if that becomes uncontrolled, it will go after that magic user instead of the one that initially conjured it.
I think it's going to be interesting to see once we get to the player's handbook and we get to the summon elemental spell. Like,
because
did they change that part if you're casting it from the spell? Because did I hear that correct? 75% of the time when you summon, it's just going to come and attack you?
If you lose control of it, and it says you lose control, concentration requires that the summoning party, so whatever magic users use, are used to summon it, they remain stationary, cannot be physically or mentally attacked, and have anything thrown at it, can be distracted.
Yeah, that's when you
nuts.
spend a turn activating your device, casting your spell, then you either have a ring of invisibility or you drink a potion of invisibility, but you do something.
But they're elementals. I think they can see. I think they can see invisible.
They can, but the other people who are trying to hit you can't. At
True.
least you're making it harder, but all right.
Right.
All
All
right.
right. And then going to the more specific of the elementals, we have the air elemental. I always thought that picture was funny. Little tornado guy, the guy flying around. The mage is like, oh shit, I lost my concentration. Air elementals' only mode of locomotion is by flying. They can, of course, move it slower than the speed listed. If in combat in the air, they gain a +1 on the hit probability and a +2 on each die of damage they cause. So not +2 damage, but +2 for each die of the damage. So their damage here is listed at 2 to 20, so it's 2d10. So it technically be +4 damage.
Yeah.
Upon command, an air elemental can form a whirlwind, a truncated reverse cone with a these measurements, man. 2 foot bottom diameter, 6 foot diameter top, and a height in inches equal to the elemental's number of hit dice, i.e., 8 feet, 12 feet, or 16 feet. If the full height of the whirlwind can't be attained due to some overhead obstruction, the whirlwind is only half strength. A full strength air elemental whirlwind lasts for 1 melee round, sweeps away, and kills all creatures under 3 hit dice.
Damn.
And causes 2 to 16 hit points of damage on all non-aerial creatures with which it fails to kill outright. Formation of this whirlwind or dissipation of it requires 1 full turn. Man, that's brutal. Oh, you're third level or under? Sorry, bye. Yeah, sorry, you're not going to Kansas anymore. On the elemental plane of air can be found certain intelligent air elementals which have special abilities beyond the above. Some are stronger than the most powerful of conjured elementals. Their queen is both powerful and has certain magical abilities. The air elemental, this guy looking like Muddy Sandman or something.
Yeah, the earth elemental.
Yeah, he's very angry. These powerful creatures travel rather slowly, and in order to cross water, they must travel through the ground and go under the bed of the body of water. Why did possibly a long trip? Well, where did that come from? That was random.
That was very random.
They score full damage against any creature which rests on the earth. -2 on each die of damage against other opponents for flying and levitating, etc. Against constructions built on stone or earth, they act as a super battering ram, causing 2 to 8 points of structural damage. A typical cottage having about 7 structural points. That's another thing when we get to the DMG, they'll have structure points and all that stuff.
Yep.
Or assaults. They can be summoned from earth or stone. On the elemental plane of earth, there exists a boss rumored to be of astounding size. Well, that's rather vague.
That is, like, look at the attention to detail they put for the Freet, and but they don't even go into like the air elemental plane. They just say this is the air elemental. And it's from the elemental plane.
There's no plane of
additional
elements
detail. So they like the earth elemental is just lucky to get some mysterious boss.
Right? He's some mysterious dude.
Mr. Big. The plane of
Mr.
Earth.
Big. The fire elemental, I like this guy's picture. He's got like all these flame and like 2 little flame eyes. It's like, what? Fire elementals are terrible to behold and fierce opponents. They set fire to any flammable material they touch. Against fire-using opponents, they score -1 on their damage dice. Fire elementals are checked by water, being unable to pass over non-inflammable liquids. So they put them in check, is what they're saying.
Pretty much.
Because they're gangster, you know.
Yep.
On the elemental plane of fire exists many sorts of different fire elementals and similar beings. The ruler of all fire elementals is reported to be known as the Tyrant.
That's interesting. I'd like maybe do some research and find out a little bit more about the Tyrant.
Who is this Tyrant?
The Tyrant and Water. Mr. Big, apparently.
Yeah, and the water elemental. Look at this guy. I like how this guy's he's got like they're 2 little water arms.
Between the water and the fire.
Yeah, the art, some of the art is very I mean, it's cool. I mean, there's a lot of
No, I
shading
like
and
it.
everything, but it's definitely different. And I like the borders. Like you see the earth elemental, the fire elemental have square border. This water guy has like a weird trapezoid thing going on up top. He doesn't get everything. Water elementals are, for all practical purposes, limited to water operations. They can only stray, but they can stray only 6 feet from their element. It normally requires a considerable volume of water or watery liquid to create a water elemental. A pool of water of at least 1,000 cubic feet in volume, but several large barrels of ale or wine would suffice. Wow. So you got a bunch of barrel of ale, and you can summon a water elemental.
A beer elemental. That's what I'm talking about.
Beer elemental. I'd like to summon my alcohol elemental, please. Outside their element, water elementals are less effective, and they lose 1 point from each dive damage they inflict. In a body of water, they attack at full effect, move more swiftly, can upset small craft, 1 ton of craft per hit die of the elemental. So if you got a mage, according to their summoning rules, the mage that summons one water elemental with 16 hit dice can affect 16 tons of craft. That's a lot, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if that many big ships back then. It can slow or stop a craft. 1 ton vessel can be stopped per hit die of elemental. If greater tonnage, simply ratio the tons to hit points to find the rate of the vessel is slowed. Find the rate of, man, some of the wordage they use in here, it's really weird. Like, I don't know if they, I mean, not that I'm not saying that they need a proofreader or something,
But they
but
do.
some, right? I catch myself reading it. I'm like, I sound dumb. But then I look back and I'm like, nope, that's the way it's written.
Yeah.
There are many other elemental forms on the plane of water. Free willed, intelligent beings are common, as well as much more powerful elementals of the sort dealt with here. It is possible that they are ruled by a godlike king. It is possible, but we don't know.
Yeah.
But they all have free will.
You know what? So before we get into the elephant, obviously the greatest monster of Dungeons and Dragons.
Polyphants, I love them.
Yeah. Um, this was for they were dropping little things for the DMs to be like, look, you're gonna have your Mr. Big for the Earth Elemental. He could be whatever you want, but he's got to
Right?
be, rock or stone shape or something to that effect. Uh, the Plane of Fire, we already gave you an idea with the City of Brass and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And now with water, we're saying he's a godlike. That means he could be a
Yeah.
demigod or something.
Or
Now
maybe Cthulhu.
they did do in the Fiendifolio, they came out with some
Yep.
princes to these elementals. So that came a little bit later, but they're setting stuff up basically.
Well, isn't Cthulhu like a water devil or a water demon? I'm not too familiar with them.
That I'm not familiar with any of
Yeah.
that. I mean, I know
I thought he had something to do with water or something like that. I'm not too
maybe leave in
sure.
the comments below, people. Teach other people and
Right?
to us. The other thing
Tell
about the
us
water
some Cthulhu.
elemental is they are brutal when you're being attacked in the ocean because you just saw
Yeah.
that. My
Even
DM,
water weirds, dude. I used a
yeah,
water weird in one of my campaigns. I'm like, man, this guy's gnarly.
he is. Especially you can get him like in a river or a pool where there's
Yeah,
like
they
gold.
were on the coast and it was a well of salt water that led from the coast into this sunken temple. And he just messed them up, man.
Yeah, they're brutal. Like my DM, he attacked us with the water elemental. We were jacking up the Sagwin,
Mm-hmm.
and he lets us know that during the time of this battle, we see this figure off in the distance with this like coral like helmet and with like sparkling gems on it and a staff. And all of a sudden, he just raises his hands up with the staff, and this huge wave comes up and it's heading towards us, and we're like, well, what the hell is that? And then,
Yeah.
like my wizard's like, well, I just cast dispel magic on it. And he's like, all right, didn't work. And then
Like,
it
nope.
just hit the boat, cast it to almost capsize. and that was like our first experience at mid-level fighting a water elemental. And some of the
Yeah.
characters we found out early were like hitting it with like +1 weapons, and we're like, what? He's like, you notice your weapon's ineffective against it. And so then the person's like, well, I got a +2 weapon. And so he, after he did the damage, we're like, oh, okay, this is brutal. And like the
Well, why the
water
hell are you using a
elemental,
+1 weapon if you have a +2 weapon?
no, like other characters,
Oh, I see. Okay.
like I think the rogue had a +1 short sword,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
he got the first to get in there to stab at it. And then, because by then we all had magical weapons of various. And once he did that, he was like, I'm out. And so he went, he actually did good because once he left the fight, he swam a little bit farther out and he
Mhm.
eventually kills the cleric with a backstab ability.
Oh
Um,
man.
he doesn't kill him outright, but he does harm him enough that the water elemental comes back but doesn't make it in time. And he's
Mhm.
able to kill it, and then the water elemental disappears, dispenses. But yeah, our whole boat was like halfway sinking down, and my DM
Yeah,
took
man. Because you
great
think about it,
pleasure. Yeah,
water's not a good place to do combat, man. There's
no.
so much to go wrong.
And here's the worst part of it. We had just come back from this island adventure with all this
Man.
loot and everything. And my DM was just like,
No.
like, well, how are you guys gonna carry all this stuff? And I was like, well, we have that
Man.
boat that's supposed to pick us back up. They'll take everything, and we don't even have to tell them what we have in some of these chests.
They'll
So
take them all right.
yeah, so then he just looked at us. He's like, okay, and he ended the session. And the next session, we fought the water elemental. I'm thinking to myself, that bastard spent all night going, okay, I'll fix you guys, because we had it was like a ridiculous amount, like. I swear, I think we had anywhere between 30 and 50,000 gold pieces, along with
Man. Then
all
you
this
retire.
stuff.
You retire your characters. You're like, my character's done.
Yeah, it was just so greedy, the amount. Like we had taken almost every last ounce of treasure off this island temple adventure, because
Man.
we went down and we just just murder hoboed the entire thing, went all the way down, found everything. Um, Then we had made an agreement with the boat to come back a week later, and since we had finished it off in like 4 days, we had a chance to categorize everything, pull up all the big chests and coffers and everything. Um,
Man.
we covered up some of the big chests with like silks and furs and other things to make it seem like we don't.
Hmm.
And then we had a small chest that we gave to him and the captain, not only for the payment, like we said, the other part of the payment we were supposed to give him, but for him and his crew and all that, and man, we got top of valuable. I said
Man. I've done
we
that before.
saved
I've
one
given.
small chest that had like the equivalence of like 10,000 gold pieces between gems and jewelry and like
Mhm.
platinum pieces. And we lost all the gold, we lost all this stuff, and I
That
was
could be another
pissed, dude.
adventure going down to find that treasure.
Yeah, we thought about it, and I was like, no, he'll probably just throw a kraken at us or something. I was like, no, we're good.
I've done that though as a DM. I gave my party a little too. I'm like, man, these guys got way too much loot and treasure in that. I'm like, maybe I should have done it. I'm like, we'll see what happens. That's when they ran into that blue dragon. That blue dragon was like, that's a lot of loot you guys got there. So why don't you give me some of that and I'll let you go.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, elephants make a unique ride for world building. First edition elementals are tough to hit with +2 weapons or better. As you heard from our stories, they were in first edition, they were brutal.
Yeah, they
Especially for
were.
like, anywhere once you got to like 5th to 8th level, not everybody had a +2 weapon at that point. And then
Correct.
each monster listing gave a small window to the plane, except for the Earth
Hmm.
Elemental, who just mentioned Mr. Big, but
Yeah.
gave no other description about the plane.
Nothing.
Nothing. All right,
You have to wait. You have to
here we
wait for a
go.
particular module for that to happen.
Last time you're gonna get a elephant in the main description.
Oh, elephants. I love them. The elephant is, we have two elephants here, the Asiatic elephant and the loxodont, the African elephant.
Oh.
The elephant is found only in warm climates. They attack by means of a stab with 2 tusks, a grab and a squeeze of their trunk, and then 2 tramplings with their front feet. One opponent can be subject to no more than 2 of these attacks at the same time, but several opponents can be fought simultaneously. 6 or more man-sized opponents, for example. Oversized opponents will not be affected by trunk attacks. Elephants are relatively intelligent and will not trunk attack creatures which will harm their trunk, i.e., spiky, hot, etc. They fear fire. That's a random thing.
Yeah, they're like
An elephant,
they're not attacking a fire elemental.
right? Mr. Big is safe.
Yes.
An elephant can easily break open a great gate by pushing unless the gate is spiked to prevent this. They can be trained to carry equipment and or men. Elephant tusks have a value of 100 to 600 gold piece value each. Each gold piece of value equals 1/4 pound of weight. Jesus. If more than one half the possible number is encountered, there will be young animals in the herd. From 1 to 4, 20 to 70% chance mature. If a single animal is encountered, it will be a rogue bull with no fewer than 8 hit points per. Oh, no fewer than 6 hit points per die. So that's pretty big, dude. And a very nasty and aggressive temper. Rogues will attack 90% of the time. And under here, they have a heading for mammoth and mastodon to see other elephants. We'll go run into those guys later.
All right, here we go.
All
Elf.
right.
The
Before we get into the elf.
Oh, what?
Oh, no, I'm saying before we get into the elf, you have something to say. This is a long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Elf, the ultimate first edition multi-class. This is what we found out from Chainmail Fantasy. Elves and fairies, armed with deadly bows, magic swords, elves and fairies are dangerous opponents considered their size and build. They can perform split move and fire, and even though they are footmen, when invisible, elves and fairies cannot attack or be attacked unless located by an enemy with a special ability to detect hidden or invisible troops, but they can become visible and attack during. Oops, sorry about that. It's my alarm. And attack during the some turn, same turn. And when I caught, because I took this off of somebody else's site right there, I didn't spell check that shit either. That's my bad. Though the elves and fairies are armed with some magical weapons and added extra dice in normal combat, and against other fantastic creatures, they will perform even better. And then, CM page 29. The first time the Drows are mentioned in D&D, like most people forget, they mentioned them here, and he's going to read that description. Elves, as they appear in chainmail following their token inspiration, are simply good at everything. Their speed is equal to the fastest footmen afoot. Their armor and hitting power is the same as the heavy foot. Their missile range is better than normal archers. They can see in darkness, which makes them a fan favorite to play. So normally when I look for information on like anything and find in first edition, I just paste and copyright from whatever article I find, and I just put that in there. I gotta reread some of these more thoroughly now.
Do some proofreading.
I know. Here we go.
It's contagious. All right, elves, my favorite demi-human. Elves are of a various sort, including a marine race, all of which are detailed here. These creatures are able to operate in 2 or more classes simultaneously. So fighter clerics, for example, are possible. Note also that the level of proficiency may vary between the 2 or more classes one of these creatures is capable of performing in. They have only a loose social structure based on independent bands which owe allegiance to an overlord, duke, princess, king, or queen. Really? That's a little... Okay, I can go with that. It goes on to say, like, for every certain amount of elves, you run into particular multi-class, dual class, different characters. I'm gonna kind of gently glide over that because there is a huge list.
Like all that stuff is really not that relevant.
But it is important to note that, like you said earlier, the elves are the first multi-class.
Yes.
Like it was, and they really use that to the hill. Where you get 2 and sometimes even 3 different classes advancing simultaneously. So by that, they meant back in the day, you would have whatever hit points, or I'm sorry, experience points you would get. You would divide those equally amongst the number of multi-classing classes that you had. So
Yeah.
if you had 3 multi-classing classes, you got, to make it easy, 900 XP. Each one would get 300 XP. It made for terribly slow advancement.
It did. Like,
You
I
know,
like the
once
new
you,
edition.
yes, and I figure it was like elves. They assume, you know, they lived hundreds and thousands of years, so they had the time to do all this.
Yep.
But usually in a campaign, it didn't go that fast.
All right, well, pick up on the
Yeah,
when
elves of
in
all sorts.
natural surroundings. Oh, let's.
Oh,
Oh no, you
oh
go
yeah,
ahead and read the
natural.
elves of all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they have some cool unicorn stuff in here too.
Okay.
Elves of all sorts seek to make their home secure by locating it in secluded cups of woods or forests. They typically have from 2 to 12 giant eagles as guards for their lair.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that, the giant eagle making another appearance.
Yep.
Um, Elves do not favor horses. Certain bands of elves will have female fighters who will be mounted on unicorns. Although only 5% chance of the time.
Yeah.
And only from 10 to 30 of such warrior elf maids are typically encountered. So they have an elite band of female elven fighters who ride unicorns roaming around there. That's pretty cool. When in natural surroundings, oh, I remember this rule. When in natural surroundings such as wood or meadows, elves can move silently and surprise on the 1 through 4 on the D6 and blend into vegetation so as to be invisible, requiring the ability to see invisible objects to locate them as long as they are not attacking. That is badass, dude.
That really is.
Note the bonus elves gain with bow or swords. Elves are also very quick and agile, so they can move, fire their bows, and move back all in the same round, which you can do that now normally, but back then you couldn't. You move and then you attack. That was the end.
Yep.
Elves are 90% resistant to sleep and charm spells of all sorts, which now pretty much the same. They have infravision out to 60 feet. They note secret or hidden doors and the like from 1/3 to half of the time, depending on the care or magic with which they are hidden. Elves are able to speak the tongue of goblins, orcs, hobgoblins, and gnolls, in addition to common alignment, which back in the day, your alignment language was a thing, Elvish, Halflingish, and Gnomish. In a description, elves are slim of build and pale complected. I don't know. I don't know if that's a word. Complected. I'm going to have to look that up lately.
Yes.
Their hair is dark and their eyes are green. Really? Dark hair. Their garb is typically pastel and of blue or green or violet, but often covered by a greenish gray cloak. The lifespan of these creatures is 12 centuries long. So they're very long lived. They have the clothing of a 70s pimp, and they are slim and pale complected.
Yes.
All right, so then we get into the different kind of elves, the aquatic elves, also called sea elves. They're akin to mermen as land elves are to men. Almost exclusively among heavy weed beds in quiet sheltered by salty waters, man. They are great friends of the dolphins. They fashion caverns in lagoon bottoms and reefs where they live and work. I don't know. When they say live and work, I just imagine these elves going to work underwater. It's kind of weird. They got like their kelp lunch pails and they're off to work. They trade with land elves for metal goods. They're unable to forge underwater. I guess they can't work there.
Yeah, I can't
For
have a
rare
fire
items
going.
found in the sea, right? For every 20 sea elves, there's a 50% chance that they're accompanied by 1 to 3 friendly dolphins.
Nice.
Aquatic elves use spears and tridents as weapons, usually in combination with nets. They do not use magic. Interesting. They speak only Elvish. They are humanoid in appearance with gill slits on the throat and greenish silver skin and green or blue-green hair. Seaweed affords little or no hindrance to their movement. They are invisible in weeds or on reefs. They are mortal enemies of sharks and sahuagin and will attack either if the elves outnumber them. Oh, so they're chicken. Chicken of the sea. They are friends to dolphins and land elves and neutral to all others except for fishermen, whom they dislike due to the number of sea elves snared in nets and killed mistakenly as Sahuagin by these ignorant humans. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. This a sea elf must have written this description here.
Most
So that's a
likely.
sea. What was that?
I was gonna say most likely, but real quick,
Right?
you got to
Yeah.
figure that they at least had clerics. Every
No, no
humanoid,
magic, man.
I know that just feels odd, doesn't it? That they
Yeah, I
wouldn't at
know.
least
Well,
have
I mean,
clerics.
no, they don't need no clerics. They got dolphins.
I guess the dolphins are the clerics. All right.
Right. All right. And then my favorite 3 sentence description of my I don't know, man. It's I would have to say my favorite elf. I would go with
Mm-hmm.
favorite, especially later on in my D&D career. The Drow, the Black Elves, or Drow are only legend. They purportedly dwell deep beneath the surface in a strange subterranean realm. The Drow are said to be as dark as fairies are bright and as evil as the latter are good. Tales picture them as weak fighters but strong magic users. Period. End of story. Nothing further.
Which
This
we
is
won't
one of the
find out
short.
until a year later. That's when they
Is it
released
real?
the first information on the Drow and Against the Giant series.
Yeah, I love the Drow. I had several Drow characters, and I said I kind of hesitated when I said it was my favorite elf because back in the day you couldn't use them as player characters.
Nope.
So I had a tendency to use the next elf we're going to talk about, but Drow is probably my favorite. My favorite character of all time. My longest lasting character, Kamash, was a Drow, and he was amazing. Actually, and my current character in your campaign, Eris, is a Drow as well.
Yep.
All right, the next one, the Gray Elves. I also love these guys. These
Yeah,
guys are
so do
cool.
I.
Gray Elves, yep, or Fairy. These noble elves are the rarest and most powerful of their kind. They are more intelligent than other sorts, +1 die on the roll for intelligence. So they had that +1 intelligence. I know we're supposed to only keep with the first edition here, but that +1 intelligence has lasted from the very beginning to the current 5th edition.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, until they change it with Tasha's and all that. But yeah, in the 5th edition player's handbook, they still get that +1 intelligence. That's how ingrained that ability is to these types of elves. And those with few super genius abilities can become wizards. They're very reclusive, live in isolated meadowlands, and meadowlands, not forests. Look at that. And never associate with any other humanoids other than elves for long or with frequency. So yeah, they don't talk to anybody but elves, and even then they're like,
They live
off
in a
elves,
gated community, dude.
right? And isolated meadowlands. That's interesting. They didn't say forests or anything.
Nope.
They are usually armored with chainmail and shield, and all carry swords. Gray elves often, with 50% chance, have hippogriffs as steed. I love hippogriffs, man. 70% actually use griffins as guards or mounts.
Gotta
They
keep
speak
those
the
apart.
same. Yep. They speak the same languages as do high elves. Gray elves have either silver hair or amber eyes, or pale golden hair and violet eyes. The latter sort are generally called fairies. They favor white, yellow, silver, or gold garments. Their cloaks are often deep blue or purple, and they live beyond the age of 1,500 years. I do love me a gray elf.
Yeah, I love playing the Gray Elf back then in that first edition and playing him
Oh yeah, dude.
like the description.
Yep.
I'd always
Especially when Unearth Arcana came out, that was great.
like playing him all arrogant, like every time we go into the
Yep.
tavern, I'd order their most expensive wine, I'd swirl
And
it,
still
spit it
complain
on the
about it.
floor, and be like, This is pig swill, but I guess it will have to do if it's good enough for your kind.
Yeah. Be like, man. Half elves. Here we go. Half elves are of human stock. They are handsome folk with the good features of each of their races. They mingle freely with either race. I don't know about that. Being only slightly taller than the average elf, 5.5 feet tall, and weighing about 150 pounds. They are able to detect secret entrances and the like as elves do 1/3 to 1/2 of the time. Half elves have normal infravision. They do not gain the sword and bow advantages of their elven stock, but half elves are able to progress simultaneously in 2 or 3 categories of classes. Here's a little thing too that we kind of they haven't mentioned. The limits, the class limits, when you multi-class, you weren't able to advance to full
Unlimited
levels, to
amounts
max
or
levels
whatever.
when you multi-class. So like half elves normally may attain maximum levels of 6, 6, and 4. So there was a limit. If you took 2, the limit was a little higher. If you took 3, they started the lower, depending on your different ability scores. If your strength is 17 or 18, the level of fighting can go to 7th or 8th. Similarly, if intelligence is 17 or 18, half elves can attain 7th or 8th level magic user.
That's pretty
Thus,
powerful
yeah,
for mid
thus a
range.
half elf. Yeah, it's and they start giving the weird names that they have in the player's handbook, which they must have had this already written for the way they're doing this. It says thus a half elf can be a superhero, warlock, vicar, 884, which those are all names that they use specifically in the player's handbook.
Yeah, for there were the
Half
different
elves,
levels. Like if you were a superhero,
yeah,
that's a certain
exactly.
level of fighter.
You were a
And for the
superhero,
wizard, I forget what level you hit, but you become a warlock. And
that's
Viscar, I'm
probably
assuming
8.
that's a cleric.
The vicar, yeah, maybe a
The
cleric.
vicar. Yeah.
Half elves are able to speak the same languages as elves: goblin, orcish, gnome, halflingish, and gnomish, and elvish, plus alignment and common. Half elves live to 250 years. The wood elf. I also love the wood elf. My first character in EverQuest was a wood elf because they're dope. Sometimes called sylvan elves, these creatures are very reclusive and generally avoid all contact. Wood elves are more neutral than other elves. They are unusually strong for elves, +1 to all die rolls, treating 19 as 18. What?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. For their strength. Wow, they didn't explain that at all.
No.
They're not quite as intelligent. Treat an 18 intelligence as a 17. So basically, back in the day, you used to roll a D3 or a D4 and take the three highest rolls. But here they're saying, if you roll an 18, you get a +1 strength. You get a 19, but it's still you knock it back down to an 18 because they kind of capped it out at 18. And then if you roll an 18 intelligence, you get docked a point to make it 17. They
Damn.
usually wear studded leather or ringmail, and fully 50% of any band is equipped with bows. Okay, that's weird. I thought it was going to say banded armor. I was like, what? Only 20% carry swords, 40% of wood elves use spears. The lair of a band of wood elves is usually guarded by 2 to 8 giant owls or by 1 to 6 giant lynx. They live in primeval forests and distant woodlands. Wood elves speak only Elvish and the languages of certain woodland animals and traits. Their complexions are fair, their hair is yellow to coppery red, and their eyes are light brown, light green, or hazel. They wear russets, reds, browns, and tans. Their cloaks are usually green or greenish brown, and wood elves have the lifespan of centuries. They don't even give a specific amount. They just say centuries. They're like, whatever, 6, 4, 12, who knows? And
All
then
right.
that is the elves.
Yep. That was a lot. I mean, that.
Yeah, and I didn't even go through everything because, like I said, a lot of it is just tedious math or
Yeah.
running into, how many you're going to run into, how many of them carry spears as opposed to daggers, as opposed to bows. That stuff, after a while, you're kind of like, all right, I get the
Yeah.
picture.
What? Yeah. Like so, the Eden and the eye floating, not the floating eye. Well, actually, they do call it the floating eye, but they put the eye
Yeah.
floating first. The Eden has been around in mythology for a long time.
Yep.
The Eden first appeared in G3 against the Giants series. I had to think back. I was like, I don't recall them in Hill Giants, setting of the Hill
Hmm.
Giants. And they definitely weren't in the G2 was against the Frost Giants. So it's G3. And then the
Yeah.
eye floating fish are mild demeanor and were relatively non aggressive. They also teamed up well with the Eye of the Deep, which we're going to be learning about next. But
It was
first,
very
Edens.
aggressive. All right, the Etten. I love these guys. I used one actually in my first homebrew campaign.
Nice.
He was uh he was a little minion of the hag. Yeah,
That's a nice
there.
touch. Nice a bodyguard for an Eden for a
Yeah,
hag.
they used to they were very dumb and they were very easily fooled and they used to argue against each other all the time. It was hilarious. Kittens are giant-like creatures which dwell only in remote areas. Their lairs are always underground, for they prefer darkness and are nocturnal. An Etten attacks with both arms, its left head directing the left arm, and the right head the right arm. They didn't leave, they took out the word arm.
Yep.
Blows from the former arm causes 2 to 6 points of damage. The right inflicts 3 to 18. What is that supposed to mean?
He's right handed.
Exactly. That's man. You don't get the special scissors.
Nope.
One of the Eden's heads is always likely to be alert, so they are difficult to surprise. Their description. It is evident from their appearance that Edens are closely related to orcs. Their animal skin dress is typically moth eaten and filthy. Edens use spike clubs and similar weapons. That's it.
Yeah,
And I like
and
this
the pose
picture.
is really weird. Like, is he
Yeah, like
dancing?
he's
Like, what the hell?
running, but like the other guy's like, wait, over here there's something, and it's from the back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
always
don't know
thought that
what's
was a
going
weird
on
pose they did.
there. Maybe he's dancing. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we didn't comment on that little elf picture up there too. That's kind of cool. The little wood elves. Look at him. He's got a dog.
Yep.
They're like, should we kill these guys? And they're like, no, they're elves coming back from raiding human settlements on their land.
Yeah, most
Yeah,
likely. The Wood Elves did not like
they didn't mess
um
around, dude.
well, I'm trying to think of
They didn't like
lumberjacks and
people
stuff like
burning
that.
down their sacred groves,
Yep.
Joaquin. Just like a druid. All right, and the floating eye. Floating eyes are saltwater fish of a very unusual nature. They have transparent bodies and a single large eye of about 3 inch in diameter. They really need the proofreads. The in diameter wasn't even in there. The latter is all that is readily visible of the fish, and when it is gazed at the creature, see, yeah, they really did. I'm gonna stop for a minute. They do a horrible job in these sentences. Like they're missing words, their punctuation, and it's
You
very.
can just tell this is a big rush job.
It is. It's. I don't want to say it's badly written. It's just badly proofwritten. Like there's just so many missing words and sentence structures that don't make sense. So that's why it sounds like I'm reading at a fourth grade level. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm back in Mrs. Butcher's class in William McKinley School in Burbank, and I'm like, all right, let's try this again. Floating eyes are saltwater fish of very unusual nature. They have transparent bodies and a single large eye of about 3 inches in diameter. The latter is all that is readily visibly of this fish, and when it is gazed at, the creature must do a save versus paralyzation or become hypnotized and remain stationary. Predatory fish, always near floating eyes, and eat the helpless prey, while the floating eyes feed upon the scraps. Naturally, these creatures also eat any small marine creatures they come upon and hypnotize. That's that. That is the most useless animal I've seen in this entire thing so far.
I kind of like it. It serves its purpose for the next creature and the last creature.
Man, okay, you go ahead and do that.
So the Eye of the Deep, it looks like a water beholder. While the beholder made its debut in the pages of the Greyhawk supplements of original D&D, the Eye of the Deep didn't make it into the game until the 1977 Monster Manual, which we are doing now. It has been distinctive of being the very first in a long line of beholder variants in the game that acquired over the years. The book establishes the Eye of the Deep as a 3-5 foot diameter spear, size large in Advanced D&D, with a pair of crab-like pincers, a large central eye, and a pair of eye stalks. The main eye can emit a blinding flash that stuns opponents, while the smaller eyes can work together to create illusions or cast whole monsters and whole persons independently. The Dragon magazine, The Ecology of the Eye Deep, none of the other than Ed Green's expands on the creature's lore. The meat of the article describes the creature's reproductive cycles, I don't even know what, their
Hermaphrodites.
hermaphrodites. God,
Hermaphrodites like Cartman's
why would they
mom.
even put that in there? All right, whatever. Its hunting habits, it uses its illusionary power to lure prey closer, then stuns them with a central eye, and even scientific tidbits about its physicology. The eye of the deep cannot
Physiology.
physiology. Thank you. The eye of the deep
Yeah.
cannot rise to the surface without the change of pressure, causing it to explode.
Ooh,
Greenwood
interesting.
also added to the eye of the deep attacks, giving it the ability to grab opponents with its claws. So that's
Nice.
the Dragon magazine that came out much later. So the
Yeah,
only thing we
yeah.
had about the Eye of the Deep is what Eric's going to read right now.
Yeah, simple descriptions. Eye of the Deep. It is possible that this monster is a relative of the beholder, but there are remarkable similarities between the two species. The Eye of the Deep dwells only at great depths of the ocean, floating slowly about, stalking prey. It has two huge crab-like pincers to seize its victims and a mouthful of small, sharp teeth. Its primary weapons, however, are its eyes. The creature has a large central eye which emits a blinding flash of light to dazzle and stun those in its ray. Half-foot cone at eye extending 3 feet to a 2-foot diameter base. For 2 to 8 melee rounds, that's going back to the stun, by the way.
Yep.
Unless a saving throw versus death ray poison is made. The Eye of the Deep also has two smaller eyes on long stalks with which it is able to create an illusion. Or acting independently, the small eyes are able to cast whole person and hold monster spells respectively.
Oh.
Because, yeah, yeah. So they can work together to create an illusion, or they can work on their own to do hold person and hold monster. Yeah.
Dang,
Because
that's
it
all I got to say.
inhabits what happened?
Oh, I was going to say, dang, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, that's gnarly, dude. Because it inhabits the deeps. Because it inhabits the deeps. This monster has an armor class of 5 everywhere, including eyes and eye stalks. It can withstand 10 to 12 hit die damage before being killed. If its eye stalks are severed, they will, as with those of the beholder, grow back in about a week of time. The nature of the Eye of the Deep is hateful and aggressive, generally conforming to its land dwelling cousin, the beholder, as regards temperaments. That makes literally, I mean, I get the gist, but just the
Yeah,
structure of that
right.
sentence is nonsense.
Which
And
is
that's
why
that.
now I was going to say,
That's
which is why you have the floating eyes with it to make it
mm-hmm.
even more of a deadly encounter.
Man.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I haven't read much on the Beholder varies. The Beholder's a great monster though. It's really a for a mid to high level monster, I would say probably more mid level.
No,
It is
definitely.
definitively and distinctly D&D.
Yep.
All right, and
All
that
right,
concludes the E's.
that does. So this is the wrap up. Next video, part 7, the letter F and G of the Monster Manual. Because I knew this one was going to be a little bit long because we're going to be talking about elves and the elementals. So that's why I put F and G at the next video. Final review of part 6 of the Monster Manual. Which monster is your favorite?
Well, I do love me some elves, but I really don't count elves as a monster.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one from the E's, elementals are kind of eh. I don't know. Probably the Afridi. Like reading that description of the Afridi, I could I can see using one as a villain in one of my campaigns.
Oh yeah, they are
I do, yeah. You
brutal.
know, I love elves, I love elephants, but I'm gonna. Oh, and I love Ettins. There's a lot of good ones in here. I've actually used the Ettin before, but I think I'm gonna go with a Freedy, and I think I'm gonna put him somewhere in my campaign.
Yeah, like I think I want to say like for me, I was like really I was thinking back and I was like, yeah, I like the Edens. I mean, I really do. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
Ettins are great.
the elementals are cool, but there's just something about being able to role play an Eden where
Yes,
your
role
party
playing an
can
Ettin is
try to
fun.
bribe it or trick it or just straight out
Hmm.
fight it. Where, the elementals, when those things pop up, now you're looking for who summoned it, and now you got
Yeah,
a
there's
fight
no
on your
reasoning
hands.
with an elemental.
Yeah, so, then I have on there, why weren't Edens considered giants?
I think they run into that thing where it's you have the giants, and then later on they came out with the giant kin, which are like ogres, ettins, trolls, these big monsters that aren't truly giants of the 18, 20, 24 foot size. They're more within like the 10 to 12 foot size. They're almost like half giants, kind of.
Yeah,
You know
they're
what I mean?
related cousins,
So
distant
yeah,
cousins.
they're related to giants, but they don't quite have that giant status. The
Yeah,
giant status is very is a I don't want to say like an elite type thing, but it's very specific. You are a giant. You are massive. You are dozens of feet tall.
yep. And final, which elemental is the deadliest?
I think we may agree on that one. I'm going to say the water elementals solely for the fact that when you encounter one of these, you are in a hostile environment anyway.
Yes.
You are in a place where you cannot walk, you cannot breathe, you rely on some kind of craft to keep you alive, and you are fighting this elemental on its own turf.
Yeah, you
So
shouldn't.
you are automatically at an extreme disadvantage.
Yeah, you should never, as a DM, use a water elemental in anything but a large body of water. Otherwise, it's just too easy
Yeah,
to like. Well, we just walk around the lake, or whatever, or
right?
we just don't cross the river or fly across the river. Like
Mm-hmm.
you want to make it to where it's really threatening, and that's what's brutal about that. The other one would be a fire elemental chasing you through a forest. Like,
Right?
ah!
Yeah, don't run into a forest.
So as you can see here, with the letter F and G, we got the stone golem. We have some green slime. We have a gnoll. The groaning spirit. That's the banshee, or maybe it's a ghost. Could be either one.
Yeah,
Got
ghost.
a gargoyle and the goblin, among some other few.
Oh, I love my nose.
Yeah, man, crazy stuff. So
Peter
we
Goose
did take this
children.
one a little bit longer. I mean, we are trying to keep these under an hour, but there's a lot of interesting stories to tell.
I blame the elves.
Yeah, pretty much. So with that in mind, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Just know that the next video up in the series, part 7, will be on next Friday. And for those of you who catch it on Friday, that's cool. Normally we try to have these like Friday morning, but Eric's and I's work schedule usually conflict, so it's kind of hard for us to get together do videos. But
Yeah, it's been a crazy week.
yeah, and then
But
the
this
other one,
weekend, I should be open this weekend. We could get a good 2, 3 videos in.
oh, easily, yeah, we got some things to talk about. We haven't even touched Starjammer that just dropped. We haven't touched the one D&D. Like, don't even get me started on that rant. And then the next video is a bonus video. It's going to be the metallic dragons, the one that we said we were going to do. So that's going to be the next video. It's not part of the Monster Manual series. It's because Eric demanded it. So you're welcome, people. So with
Gotta
that, I
love
hope.
dragons.
Yep, he does. So with that, people, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you made it this far, you definitely deserve a like. Tell your friends, subscribe. Closing thoughts, Eric.
I'm looking forward to the dragon video. I'm looking forward to getting on with the different. We're moving down the alphabet. We're getting into some really good monsters going on. Yeah, the G is going to be really. That's going to be that may be a long video because we got a lot of good stuff in there.
There is. And with that, people, I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.
Hey guys.